One of the defining characteristics of architecture is it's an artful solution to a specific set of problems. You know, we're not just assembling building materials, we're inventing solutions. We're crafting them for a very specific place and client. These aren't universal solutions, they're very specific. Today we're going to be designing cabinetry and the entry details on this sort of entry sequence, so I'll walk you through what that process looks like. It always starts for me in the sketchbook. So my sketchbook is a place just to iterate design ideas very quickly, and it frees me from the sort of digital environment, allows me to access ideas that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I use a sketchbook, sometimes I'll use the iPad. So that's kind of where we're going to start. A couple other things to have on hand that are helpful, some rulers, and I like these these are kind of retro rulers, vintage rulers, but I like these as opposed to a metal tape because you can actually set them on a work surface and they'll actually stay there, as opposed to a metal tape which is going to flop over. These are great because if I'm designing, say, a flip down desk like we're going to be talking about today, I want to know if there's enough space here for holding a laptop or to do some paperwork or writing checks. I also want to have some of the materials. So here we have our flooring, some leather maybe for the desk surface, some cork for maybe tackable surface behind a desk. These start to serve as the inspiration for the design. Feeding into this, we want to start doing an inspiration image search as we think about, a flip down desk. It started making me think about, field desks. And I started collating these images of these field desks, and they're a really interesting study in economy of design and form. We have this surface which flips down here, some really interesting hardware. And then we have a series of drawers that hold documents, maybe some maps, maybe a lockable cabinet for personal effects here. And it's all meant to be sort of flipped up, and actually this one carried from battle station to battle station as plans change. But this also led me then to look at retro toggle switches and started me thinking about how we're going to light the work surface, and then I started searching sort of marine lights. So you start chasing some of these threads of ideas and you just never know where they're going to lead you. I thought we'd just put it all on the desk and start sketching and see where it leads us. Okay, so I've blocked out this south wall of the mudroom. Thought this would be an interesting area to focus some detail attention on. We have this repeating motif throughout the project of these sort of spaced boards. So the main porch entry sequence has a slatted board entry, and because it receives and greets guests and it's a place that the owners are passing through all the time, this might be a good spot to focus some of our energies. With detailing, it would be great if we could invest all of this energy in detailing every single space and every corner of the building, but it's just not practical or possible. So we choose a few strategic areas to invest some extra time and energy in, and I thought this would be a good spot to do that. So the entry space here, this is the ceiling of that space, and this is the floor here. So it's quite tight, and that's designed intentionally to force your eye out to the landscape beyond. So as we enter this space, we're looking directly out through this window. As we're building this, we need to be cognizant of not keeping any plumbing runs here. We don't want any vents in here. If we have electrical boxes like we do on the kitchen side, we need to run that in conduit, and we really need to be very specific in how we plan this wall out. So one of the things I want to do was design this modular sort of coat hanging system in here so that they could be sort of moved and rearranged on this wall. It's changing based on whatever is hanging off of here. So let's say the grandkids are here and they brought a little satchel with them. It'd be nice for them to be able to hang it down low here. So we'd have a set of pegs that were down low. They could hang their jacket there, or up high we could hang our binoculars here. So my idea for these pegs was, if this is our slat here, the slat spacing on these is basically the thickness of the board. So that would be 3/4 of an inch. So I was wondering, could these pegs be movable so that they rest on this, and that they have a supporting piece that sits back here like this. So this is behind that slatted wall, okay? And then if we twist this peg, let's say we twist it that way, this piece twists along with it, and once we get it to align with this slot, then we can pull it out and relocate it, move it anywhere else on this wall. So let's just kind of detail what that looks like. If we look at this peg sort of head on like this, and then we look at the side view of it, and I don't know how deep this is going to be, 4 inches maybe for now. And then we have the depth of our boards here. So here's a board and a board like this. And then we have our little strut that's on the back side of it. And we'd fasten through that to here. So as we look at this without the slats in it, it looks kind of like this. And this little piece needs to be kind of a dowel shaped piece. And then we have our vertical piece, which attaches to it here like this. And as you take this and twist it, this then aligns with the slat. So if we look at this in elevation, I thought it'd be cool if we had some way of registering where this was located. So let's just say we have a motif that's either painted on the surface or it's cut into the surface. And then maybe we just have like a little registration mark so that as we twist this down and around, and this comes up here, we know once this aligns with this slot that we're able to pull it out. And maybe, you know, it could just be like this. I could carve these designs. This could be a cut like this, cut and a cut, you know, and even a deep cut maybe. So you could hang other things off of it. You know, these could be just made out of different types of woods, you know, so one's hemlock, one's pine, one's fir, cedar. They could be carved. Keep thinking about these kind of signal flags. So I did this kind of study of these signal flags. Like these little pieces could be carved as motifs onto each one of these faces. Each one of these could be, it could be numbers, they could be, you know, coordinates, like whatever the outpost coordinates are. They could be monogram that we create for the project. Lots of different possibilities. I was wondering, would there be some piece of wood that kind of slides into this slot here? You know, so if we have the gap between the boards here, would you slide a piece of wood here that acts as a shelf on both sides? But then, you know, if you end up storing something on this side, you've got your cup of coffee on this side here, you could potentially pull the shelf out and drop everything that's on that side. So probably not the best. I started also thinking about, well, is there a way to kind of make some break formed metal pieces that would notch here? You know, could they be sort of little hooks like this? So if we did that, if we have our board like this, and we have our board up here, one down here, we could use some zinc. This zinc here, it's really beautiful, bends really nicely. It's got that sort of dark color and it's got a nice grain to it. I wonder if we could use that and kind of break form it to create this shelf, this real crisp shelf. Give it a lip on the front edge. And then this is a place to come in and, you know, you store your phone here or your keys, whatever else, you know, your pocket effects in there. And then that can sort of, maybe one goes here like that as a catch-all. Maybe one goes here, a little bit out of the way. There, you've got a map and a compass that lives here. Or, you know, when the grandkids come and stay, they go out and collect beach stones. The beach stone, you know, you rest it down here. Different found objects from the beach. And the trick with this would be to keep this dimension at our 3/4 of an inch. So you lift this up and then slide it out that way. And then, you know, this could be moved to here, to here. It could be flipped over to the kitchen side. Is there Is there a way we can kind of water jet cut in little design motifs? Or like, what if this is the coordinates outpost, that there's some sort of typography component that's designed on the front of these. They're like custom made, they're like monogrammed for this place. Or it could just be that, you know, we're cutting very similar little motifs between them. So this becomes the kind of catch-all at the entry. And then we really do have to start solving like what some of these details at the end of the wall are going to be, to figure out how these get fastened. So there's some kind of fastening pattern that's probably exposed here. And then the end of this wall could either be, you know, if we look in plan, we have our boarding coming through, we could either do this, where our stud is here and our boards end there, and we fasten in like this. Or we could hold it back and let the boards fly by, which is kind of more what I'm thinking. So more like this, where it's recessed. I don't know, this little recess has some opportunities. I know it's like things in houses where you kind of discover these little objects or things you didn't really know were there. I mean, this kind of takes it to the extreme, but like if there's a little fob that you design that just has its certain place right here, and so it's, you know, it's kind of cut out of the stud, and when you return here, it fits right in. I don't know. Like the keys for the house are this kind of bespoke object. Anyway, that may not happen here, but that's definitely the potential and possibility with this as you start thinking and sketching through all of these details. Okay, so we have our pantry unit. We're going to convert the top area here, this end third bay, entirely to our desk unit. The upper zone here is going to become our head end, just storing all the electronics associated with computer support. This will be our flip down desk, and then I thought at the bottom we would design a custom stool that would slip in here, and we'll talk about more about what that looks like. You know, the top zone here, we could actually treat these as doors that hinge out, but I thought, you know, better use of space would be to treat this as a sliding panel. So that's how we're going to approach that. In any scaleless environment, if you want to create a scale, insert a grid, and here I'm working with the dot grid, so I've inserted that into this, and we're just going to treat each one of these as 6 inches. So we're going to line out the floor and we're going to line out the wall. As we cut a section through this, we're going to just kind of sketch out the details, and we need to know proportionally how everything fits together. So our stool is 18 by 18. You know, this is a foot deep now. I'm just going to show it a little deeper because I think in order to accommodate this as a desk, probably needs to be a little deeper. So we'll line this out here. Okay, so that's the depth of our cabinet. We know our stool sits at 18 inches. We also know that our ideal work surface is going to be at 29 inches. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is our 30-inch mark. And I'm going to come here and set a fixed shelf at that location. So let's just fix a shelf, and let's just say it's, you know, about 1 inch deep. Okay, so that sits there in the cabinet. And I'm going to assign a thicker line to the back of the cabinet here, and a thicker line to the floor. In our reference examples, as we looked at these field desks, you know, you'll recall they had this sort of flip down face like this, right? And they had hardware that supported that. So that kept it from overextending, and then also ended up being a hinge point for this entire box. And I thought it would be nice if we didn't have to have any hardware for this. So to accomplish that, this was my idea. What if we extend the desk surface below, and this would be the panel in the closed position. And then let's make a new layer. Let's do some kind of swing references here. Okay, so we've got that. Let's move this into place. Now you can see I'm going to set this so the center point of this is just below our work surface. Make it a little bigger. And then let's do another reference line. And you'll see where we're going to put this. Let's move this down to this point here. I'm going to use the same center point. Okay, that seems good. Let's erase this. And we'll erase this. Okay, now I want to set the pivot point for this below this desk surface. And you'll see as we pivot this desk down where that places it. Just shade it in here. What this allows us to do is use the backspan here to support the desk. And then I thought we would add a little pin at the jamb that could then ride along in a routed channel. And that just registers the edge of this desk here. So as it pivots up, it rides in a channel at the edge. So that's our desk panel laid out. We want to show the upper door here. This is our sliding door. And then let's get a fixed shelf up here. I don't think we need the one that we had previously shown in the middle here. So I think we'll eliminate that one and we'll just have this one up here, and then we'll probably have another fixed shelf above that. And inside of this zone, this is just utilitarian storage space. So we get our printer up here. If we have a printer, that's probably the best location for it because it's within reach. And then, the things we don't access every day, the router, the switch, any other electronics that are supporting the workstation here can go up there. Now, also in those field desks, they had kind of a zone of drawers down low, and I think that could be nice in here. And then at the back wall, what if we add some cork? So I think that, we have this kind of motif of this sort of dark brown cork at the back. The inside of the cabinet can be this nice white oak, which we're also using for the floor. And then what if the work surface becomes this nice leather piece? I want to think about the lighting in here. Let's position one of those little sort of eyelid lights up here. And that lights this work surface. And then, we can twist it if we need a different set of lighting. So if you're working here writing, we can twist that around. And I think, if there's a switch, some kind of a toggle switch, the toggle switch maybe ends up being up here. Super minimal, but it's obvious when this door is open and you flick the switch and this comes on. I want to keep things out of this zone down in here. So let's sketch out what the back of this work surface looks like. So got this. Here's our zone of shelves, and I think the end here is for pens and pencils, and I think we divide the other two equally, and that's just about the right size for a sheet of paper. So storing of documents in here, envelopes, supporting paperwork, and then this zone is all of our tackable surface. So our cork goes in here, and we can hang up whatever documents we have there. Some of this is obviously going to have to get coordinated with the owner. If we want to have more vertical storage in here, that's a possibility. But then this acts as a shelf for, we could have a little charging station in here that's built in. It can be the place to store a laptop when it's not in use. We could also use it as a monitor stand if we needed to do that. And we have our little eyebrow lights in here like that. One of the ideas that I had for this work surface, let's just sketch the plan view of that work surface here. So trying to think of a way that we could, eliminate all hardware altogether. So let's create a new layer. What if that leather that we're using for that surface, and just rough it in here like this. Just drop the opacity on this. Come back to our layer here. So there's our leather surface, right? What if that edge of that sort of peeked out here, just like that? So if we draw this in elevation,
this door panel in elevation. We have our hinge pin like this. We have our tracking pin below that, whatever that offset is there, right? So there's that. Up at this corner, this is where I'm thinking that leather tab kind of sticks out. So if we look at that in detail, this is that corner. What if that sticks out here? You know, I don't know if it's a point, it comes to a point. Or, you know, it's rounded like this. Could even have a hole in it, so you kind of grab it. Could also be, and all of that as much. Could also be one of those kind of tab pieces shaped like this. Just something that indicates that it's back there, but and then it also connects to that surface itself. I don't know. It's just an idea. It could also be, you know, that we have a finger hole here and a finger hole here, or it could just be a press point. You know, you press at the bottom of this and it kind of flips forward. Or it could also be that sort of fob that we were designing. You know, at the edge of this panel, we could insert the fob, and that's the piece that kind of pulls it down at the edge. I don't know. It's just an idea. Let's think about what this stool could be. Get some felt feet on it. We have this kind of board motif going on in the project. Could the top of the stool just be these sort of two boards? Maybe there's some wood joinery that's happening there. So for this stool, this is kind of what I was thinking, that there be plank like this kind of boarding motif, just like that. So it's this kind of U shape in here. Could we have a sort of supporting board like this, and a supporting board like this, and then they're sort of connected like that. This could all be pegged connections here. So that becomes pretty minimalist seat, and then, you know, these boards at the end could be, they could be mortised or something like that. They could, you know, appear on the end face. And then these connections are kind of revealed all along, these pinned connections. You know, one thing that I was thinking with this was, what if we turned this on its side? Could this also double as a sort of step ladder? So if you wanted to reach something in the pantry, I'm just showing it tipped on its side here. So this point is about 9 inches. If this is 18 overall. 18 inches is a pretty big step, you know, if you were to step onto this there. But if you tilt it, you twist it, you know, 90 degrees, then you can treat this as a step and just be able to reach something a little bit higher on the pantry wall. So it's just kind of an invented solution, a design solution. But then when we slide this whole thing in and pack it away, you know, here's our stool. This all becomes a neat, contained, sort of utilitarian wall. This could also be stored, you know, if you wanted that real monolithic look, it could be stored this way, so that we have our board here and our board here. And the way you pull this out is, you know, you kind of reach in and grab the board. For a remote site, this kind of analog, low-tech approach to design, friction fit, you know, using joinery to connect materials, for me, that just really resonates with the building concept. So I'm just kind of looking for more opportunities in the details to make that plain. Oh, that looks like the anarchy symbol. No more anarchy. I don't know for that.